coincides with the 8th Pan-IIM World Management Conference. We have amongst us 4 stars, as I would call, 4 dignitaries. Professor Yogesh K. Dwivedi is a professor in the School of Management at Swansea University, UK. He is the editor-in-chief of the prestigious International Journal of Information Management, one of the top journals and an ABDC A-star ranked journal. His research interests are in the area of information systems and electronic business, including the adoption and diffusion of emerging ICTs, an interest in analysis of usage trends of IS theories, and understanding the evolution of information systems, e-government, and e-commerce research. His work on these topics has been published in a range of leading academic journals, including Communications of the ACM, European Journal of Information Systems, Information Systems Journal, International Journal of Information Management, to name a few. Above all, Yogesh is truly an empathetic soul. So I welcome you, Yogesh. We also have Professor Vikas Kumar, who is the head of discipline and professor of international business at the University of Sydney Business School. His previous appointments were at Bocconi University and as visiting scholars at Stanford University and University of Reading. He is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of International Management, one of the top 5 journals in the international business discipline, and an ABDC A-ranked journal. Professor Kumar obtained his doctoral degree in international business in 2004 from St. Louis University. His research interests include internationalization, emerging markets, business groups and outsourcing, offshoring. He is the director of the Emerging Market Internationalization Research Group at the University of Sydney Business School. In addition to this, Vikas is a very humble human being. I welcome you, Vikas. We also have amongst us Professor Manlio D. Gides, a full professor of management at the University of Rome, Link campus, where he serves as Deputy Chancellor of the LCU campus of Naples and Director of the CERMES Research Center. He is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Knowledge Management, one of the top journals in the domain of knowledge management and an ABDC A-ranked journal. Professor Manlio holds a PhD in management at the University of Milano, and he did build up his academic and scientific career outside of Italy for more than 10 years in a number of worldwide renowned universities, prior to coming back to Italy in 2014, having won the National Scientific Qualification as Associate Professor in 2013. He has been hired as full professor in 2018 as one of the 20 youngest professors in Italy. His research has been published in top-ranked peer-reviewed journals like MIS Quarterly, Journal of Organizational Behavior, Journal of World Business, International Marketing Review, to name a few. His main research interests deal with knowledge management, technology transfer, innovation, and technology management. Let me tell you, Professor Manlio is a very enthusiastic individual. I welcome you, Manlio. We also have Professor Carlos Flavian, who is the Professor of Marketing, Marketing Management and Market Research, University of Zaragoza, Spain, and the AIR-SI Chair. He is the Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Spanish Marketing. Am I correct? And one of the top journals in the domain of marketing. Professor Flavian is supervisor of doctoral dissertations on 10 occasions, recognized with several awards from public and private institutions, including the Best Doctoral Dissertation of the Program, Best Doctoral Dissertation in Spain, etc. He is the chair of specialized conference, workshops, seminars in more than 30 occasions and member of national and international scientific committees on more than 70 occasions. His main research interests deal with artificial intelligence in services, tourism and hospitality, customer experience, mobile word of mouth. And yes, he is a diligent professional. So we welcome you, Professor Carlos. I hand it over to you because I'm sure the participants are waiting to hear from you. So I'll not stand between you and them. May I now request Professor Vikas to start your session, please.
Thanks a lot, Deepa, for this fabulous introduction. It is always very nice to actually be back at IIM Kozhikode. I was there 2 years back, and I had an amazing, very productive time as part of the first conference that you guys organized so fabulously. So I'm Vikas Kumar. As Deepa said, I'm the editor-in-chief of Journal of International Management. I took over the editorship last year in January from Mike Kotabe, who was the editor for about close to 15 years. The journal was already in a very good standing, I would have to say. As Deepa mentioned, it is one of the top 5 journals in the field of international business / international management. And I'll talk about a little bit about the journal today. So one of the big changes that has happened recently, I would say, in this journal, which is just a year before I took over as the editor-in-chief, is that the journal started to have a board of associate and consulting editors. In fact, mainly associate editors when Mike Kotabe was the editor. I changed the nature and the composition of the associate editors, mainly to reflect the international nature of the journal. So I found that the previous editorial board was not as international, and I do really believe in the international aspect of the audience, international aspect of the board members in order to make this journal truly international. So I have Lin Chui from Australian National University in Australia, Zilian Deng from China, Desislava Dikova from Vienna, Tazeeb Rejwani from England, from Surrey Business School, Sumit from Florida International University, Song-Hyun Lee from Texas at Dallas, US, and Vas Taras from University of North Carolina at Greensboro. In addition to these associate editors, I also have a lot of consulting editors, again, spread all over the world, I would have to say. Kaz from Japan, Maoling from China, Mehmet from the UK, Stefano from Italy, Sinigina from New Zealand, Andreas from Canada, Nitish and Stephanie from US again, and then I have Sanjay from Ireland and Dimitris from Greece. So it is actually quite well represented in terms of the geographical area. Obviously, there are a few which still remain, and I would want to actually have more people involved from, say, South America. The aims and scope of the journal. Journal of International Management, as you would imagine, is in the field of international management, publishes theoretical and empirical research which address issues in the management of global enterprise. What I have been always clarifying is the way I and the editorial board and Jim sees global enterprise might actually be a little bit different from what other journals in the field of international business and management see it. So global enterprise for us does not necessarily mean that it has to be already a multinational enterprise. That is, it already has to be operating in more than one country. A global enterprise, according to us, could also be a company which has presence only in one, or a significant presence only in one country, but has clearly an interest and a strong interest through a variety of different ways. It could be through human resources, it could be raising capital, it could be through the supply chain, it could be also a small company wanting to make an entry into the global world. So all that would fall within the remit of global enterprise as far as Journal of International Management is concerned. Secondly, we accept macro and micro level of studies. So by macro, I mean something which is higher than at the firm level. So even studies which are at the country level, but which have very clear and important implications for firm strategy and management is considered, not necessarily accepted, but definitely considered to be put into the review process. Similarly, micro level studies, which could be at the individual level or at the sub organization at the unit level, is also considered, as far as they have a very clear implication on firm strategy and behavior. Single country studies, again, is also considered. You wouldn't find too many studies published, though, with just single country data. But just to clarify, unlike JIBS and Journal of World Business, which are the other two major international business management journals, which do not actually consider single country studies, we do once in a while accept single country studies, again, with the condition that it has a solid, significant implication on global business management of firms in the global world. And there are incidences where even with a single country study, one can actually have that implication. Journal of International Management also publishes literature reviews, critiques, perspectives. So far, we don't have a dedicated issue for lit reviews, again, which is somewhat unlike Journal of International Business Studies and Journal of World Business. And we want to continue with that because we see literature reviews as being extremely important, and it can get published throughout the different issues that we publish. The audience is researchers and educators primarily, but we are also wanting to actually get into the business professionals. So we are actually working on getting a little bit of an orientation towards practitioner-oriented articles and research. We publish a lot of special issues, and the special issues mainly have the objective of demonstrating the important topics in international business and management, and something with the journal would be open also to consider in the regular issues going forward. So some of the special issues which are forthcoming, one on sustainable business in emerging markets, the deadline of which is March 1. There's one on global connectivity in a world of disruptions, the deadline for which is May 1. Actually, one of the guest editors is Snehal Avate from IIT Mumbai, along with Ram Mudambi from Temple University. There's another one on qualitative comparative analysis, which is, I find, a very fascinating and a new methodological approach, which lies between the solid qualitative and the very rigorous empirical. And I find that that is clearly one of the paths through which management, and particularly international management research, can be actually done in a very, I would say, practical manner. The other special issue that is forthcoming is titled Disruptions to Globalization and International Business Introversion. Dimitris Frontis is leading the guest editorial team, and the deadline for that is 1 year from now, December 15, 2022. So I'm just highlighting that these, any one of you who would be interested or is working on a topic which falls into these themes, obviously can send it to the special issue, but also don't shy away in sending it to a regular issue, because these themes kind of demonstrate the importance of the topic and importance of the topic to the journal in general. It's not that we only would publish these topics in these special issues. Some of the recent special issues which are now closed, which I find, again, reflect what is happening in the international business, international management area, which might not be the typical topic. So, for example, strategies for humanitarian migrants employment, something which I would say has become extremely important, but the IB management journals have not really paid sufficient attention. So we have a special issue, hopefully coming out by the end of next year. We also had one on novel methodological approaches to study socio-political risks, just recently, deadline for which recently passed away, and the impact of digital technologies in firms' internationalization strategies, the deadline for which was about a year ago. I'll get to some interesting statistics data, which some of you might actually find interesting, also to know where the articles are coming from, how many we accept, how many we reject. So in 2021, so that is this year, we have so far received 542 manuscripts, out of which 475 have been rejected overall. So you can imagine that there's obviously only a small set of articles which have been accepted, which is 59, or which are under the review process at the moment. What is interesting and important to know is that the test reject rate is extremely high and have been quite consistent in around the mid 60 percent. So in 2021, it has been 67%. In 2020, it was 63%. So what I want to actually highlight, showing this figure here, is that the majority of the desk rejects happen because the authors have not actually shown any care towards what the journal stands for, what the journal's formatting is, what are the basic requirements of the Journal of International Management. It is less to do with the quality, although there is part of the manuscripts which are rejected at the desk, which is done by me because of poor quality. The large majority of the desk rejects is because it just does not fit into the objectives. And it reflects, I would say, a rather very cursory and I would say a lazy attitude of the authors. So the good point here is that once you actually get your article manuscript into the review process, the acceptance rate is nothing close to the 8 or 10%. It is way higher. So that is something which is the positive part in which I want everybody to focus on, rather than the high desk reject or the low acceptance rate. And if I'm not wrong, that might actually be true also for some of the other journals, and the editors would talk about it. The one thing on statistics that I also want to talk about is the articles submitted by country and region. And as you can figure out, I come from India, so my country of origin is India, and I love the country. I visit the country, and I do want actually international business scholarship to actually advance, get promoted, and also the Journal of International Management to be much better known there. And in that regards, I think if you go in the lower chart, there is clearly a growing recognition. These numbers from obviously United States, United Kingdom are quite consistent, but if you see the numbers for India, and these are the numbers of manuscripts being submitted to the journal, which is a very good I would say statistic. 68, which is similar to United Kingdom, very close to that of United States. So in that sense, it's picking up, and also the distribution amongst all the other countries or the major countries is also pretty good. Australia as well is increasing, and that I think is quite natural, given that I'm based here and some of my editors are based here. What is disconcerting, though, is the acceptance rate from India, acceptance rate from China. So out of the 66 in 2021, only 2 have been accepted. There might be some which are actually in the review process. Similarly, in China, out of the 63, only 5 have been accepted. And I think this is something which I and my editorial board would really want to change. And I think through some of these sessions and also through some of the other workshops, we want everybody to know what exactly Journal of International Management does. We actually have these developmental workshops through which we can help authors to develop their articles and successfully publish in the journal. So this is something which I don't find actually as a good thing. So if you look at the lower chart here, India and China, this is about the desk reject. 87% of the articles that are submitted from India actually get desk rejected. And this is because a large majority of the authors who are submitting article from India do not care much about what the journal stands for. What are some of the basic requirements that are needed to submit there? This is to do with the speed of the articles getting published in the Journal of International Management. I would say that we can obviously do much better. So submission to first decision is 18.8 weeks. So that is kind of the first review. But I would say the best part is the last bar chart, which, or maybe, sorry, not the last, but the gray one, 55 weeks. This is submission to first online, obviously assuming that your article gets accepted. So this is what should be of concern and importance to anybody these days. So as far as your article is available online, it gets noticed, it starts to get cited, it serves all the purpose. And we have been doing, I think, fairly well. So it has actually reduced from 62.7 weeks, 61.9 weeks to 55.1 weeks. We always try to actually speeden up that process a little bit more. In terms of the impact factor, which is very, very important for scholars for a number of things, for their tenure, for promotion, Journal of International Management is obviously not as good as the Journal of International Business Studies, which is 11.38 in 2020. In fact, to be very objective, it is close to 1/3 of the impact factor. but we are growing higher and higher. So from a 2.8 in 2018, we were 3.8 in 2019 and 4.6 in 2020. Some of these impact factors also changed because of many unexplainable and controllable factors. But as far as there is a steady, consistent increase, I think that's a good sign. This is a very interesting chart, and I think something that I've really paid attention to. These bars actually show the number of citable articles published in the top international management journals. So the orange one is that of Journal of International Management. The blue one next to that is actually of International Business Review. So 83 articles which were citable in 2020 have been published in IBR. Then Journal of International Business Studies is 105. Journal of World Business is 62. The point that I want to drive down here is that Journal of International Management has a big scope to publish more articles. If you just compare it with three of the other journals, that is IBR, JIBS, and JWB. We publish only 44, obviously more than MIR, Management International Review, but a lot less than Journal of International Business Studies, less than Journal of World Business, and a lot less than also IBR. Okay, so this is kind of my final slide showing what are some of the articles which have actually got very well cited in 2021. For some reason, the Emerging Market M&E, a qualitative review by Yudong Liu, who's one of the editors at JIBS, and Huan Zhang. And Huan Zhang is actually my colleague now. In fact, I was involved in recruiting him to the University of Sydney, so I'm very proud that his article actually in the Journal of International Management is doing well. It was cited the most number of times in 2021. However, the one thing I want to actually point out is that Ronaldo Perente's article and colleagues' article on sharing economy globalization phenomena has been consistently doing very well in terms of the citation. And this is a reflection of basically where the international business research is actually moving towards. A lot of research is going towards the digital sharing economy, the new economy, and that is where I would also encourage you guys to focus on. My 15 minutes is getting close to over. I would end at one concluding note, and maybe this is not connected to what all I was talking about so far, but connected to what I really believe in and I'm passionate about, and I also do research, is one of the best ways of creating great impact through your research is kind of leveraging the disconnect that exists between what we already know. And what we already know, I think, typically comes from the understanding and analysis and theorizing, I would say, in the Western world with Western data. That is the America, that is Western Europe. And I think there's a lot of new phenomena taking place. I think if we just take India and China, there's so much new things happening in international management, international business, that it becomes very important for us to see that disconnect, because there is a disconnect between the new phenomena that is happening and what the wisdom is received from our traditional journals and traditional research. And there's nothing wrong in it. There's a huge opportunity for each one of us, particularly for those who are interested in and based in these fascinating contexts of the emerging markets, such as India, such as China, I would have to say, amongst many other places. And this is what needs to be leveraged. The role of context needs to be exploited in order to advance international management and international business research. So I would end here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vikas. It was indeed inspiring. In fact, the insight on desk rejection should be an eye-opener for many of us, because the moment a desk rejection happens, the motivation level goes down from 100 to 10%, and like people give up. Okay, that journal, desk rejects. So I think this particular insight would have really opened many of our eyes, and maybe have a couple of questions if your time allows.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So please, if anyone has a question, could you write in the chat box?
See, I'm also happy to take questions via email if somebody has a clarifying question. I can see there's one. Could you please share your email ID? Could not get it from the slides. Towards the end, it's my name, vikas.kumar@sydney.edu.au. You can actually go to my university page and you can find that.
Okay. Do we have any other question?
See, if there are no questions, let's actually move on to the other speaker.
Okay, fine. So I
Thanks a
think
lot,
that would
Deepa.
have, had you not covered the desk rejection part, that question would have definitely come. So
Okay.
you've already taken care of it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
We now move on to Professor Yogesh Dwivedi, the Chief Editor of International Journal of Information Management.
Thank you, Deepa, for invite and wonderful introduction that you actually given to us. And obviously, Vikas has said so many things that probably I would repeat in my talk as well. I'm Yogesh Dwivedi. I'm based in School of Management, Swansea University, Wales, UK. Apart from being editor-in-chief of International Journal of Information Management, I also kind of act as an associate editor of Government Information Quarterly, Journal of Business Research, and European Journal of Marketing. So, lots of editorial work goes in, and whatever I say, lots of time is not just based on IJIM experience, but also other journals that I'm involved in. So I'm very quickly going to give a very brief introduction of IJIM, and then one slide for desk rejections, actually, because has mentioned few regions, and I will actually outline few other regions. So here is a kind of metrics for IJIM. As you can see, 2020 impact factor was 14, site score was 18, and what is important here to notice that the site score tracker for 2021 shows already that journal is having 26.2 a site score for 2021. So it's not going to be less than that. In fact, because one more month data are going to be added, so it's likely to be slightly higher. But that also means that the impact factor likely to rise to about 20, if my estimate is correct. So obviously, based on these metrics, IJIM is actually #1 in information and science category, as well as if you look at marketing in Scopus, then it's also #1 in marketing category. And that also reflect in the number of submissions, as you can see. The journal has already received 1,850 submissions from 1st January 2021, and it's likely to go 150 more by end of this month. So very, very high rate of submission. And because just mentioned that, this desk rejection in his journal is very high, and that's also at our one. 81% desk rejection was in 2020, and it's likely to be higher in 2021. We don't have data yet, but it's likely to be more higher in 2021. Overall acceptance rate for the journal is 10.5% for 2020. So you can see that we are actually looking best of the best work that is submitted. And there are reasons for that. And in terms of review process, we take, for desk screening, we take 2.5 weeks on an average, but generally I try to do within a week. Unless I'm traveling or I'm somewhere on move where I don't have internet access, I try to process within a week. If it obviously goes further, then it takes 1 to 3 months for first review cycle. It all depends upon how quickly reviewer agree, how quickly reviewers submit their review comments. Generally, each submission that goes to the review stage may take 2 to 5 review cycles to get the final decision. And each paper is generally reviewed by 2 to 4 reviewers. per submission. So this is kind of in nutshell, statistics for the journal is. Here is a kind of downloader. You can see that, the IJIM is, India is on 10th position in terms of number of downloads. And you can see the journal is actually, articles published in journal is downloaded across the continents, various countries, and top 20 is given on this slide. And that's for last 5-year data, actually. It's also available on journal website if anyone like to look at it. In terms of authorship, you can also see that, kind of India is on number 4th in terms of corresponding author. But in terms of number of articles published where actually people have co-authored is many more than what is shown on this slide. As particularly in last 3 years, number of articles published from India has increased substantially. So this is kind of, authorship. And here is what we publish actually. So obviously journal is focused on information management, but we are looking at upcoming current topics. We may not want to publish something that would have been published 20 years ago because no more people had interest in it. So you can see, I'm not going to obviously look at each and every topic listed here, but as you can see, the things like social networking, social media, big data, artificial intelligence, analytics, blockchain, machine learning, these are kind of things prominent. Smart cities, very, very prominent in this particular journal. Our reviewers like it. Lots of submissions we are receiving on these topics. Is very current. These topics are very current, and therefore, as soon as papers get published, they start getting cited within 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So you can imagine the kind of rate of traction for these kind of topics. One thing I like to point here is, obviously I have mentioned, the number that is mentioned in the bracket, they are basically number of times these keywords appeared on various articles. So you might see the topics like, sustainable development, for example, supply chain management. So we don't publish pure supply chain management paper, pure sustainable development paper. These keywords are used in a paper where actually focus was on technology or information management, but then the focus was on these topics. So we don't publish pure article on things like human resource management, for example, or marketing, but these keywords have appeared, so I have provided you there. But keep in mind that we obviously, anything we publish, it has to be information system, information management, and then obviously context and things can be anything else. So these are the areas that we are publishing. A lot of work at the moment, and these works been very well received by audience. So very quickly, I wouldn't take too long. Obviously, I don't want to obviously hamper the overall time. But here is an article where we have discussed very recently, just 2 months ago. This article was published. Basically how to develop a quality research article and avoid journal desk rejection. And the input is not just from me in this editorial. You can see the editors listed here, number of journals editor contributed into that. So Christy Cheung from Internet Research, Karen Conboy from European Journal of Information Systems, 2 of our associate editors, then Marianne Janssen from Government Information Quarterly, Paul Jones from International Journal of Business, International Journal of Entrepreneurial Behavior and Research, Mariana Sigla from Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and Gianpaolo Viglia from Psychology and Marketing. So they all have provided their input in this editorial, and then we actually analyzed their input. Of course, I have provided my own as well, and then we analyzed those inputs to come up with some common factors. because I already mentioned few of those, right? So here are few that are actually very important. 81% desk rejections. And obviously, many of you may think, why we desk reject? Well, imagine the 1850 submissions, putting all of those in review process, what it takes, how many reviewers. And many of us as an author want to publish, we don't want to review. So finding good reviewers are very, very difficult. It's a scarce resource, basically. So you have to select best of the best that you think might able to make through the review process, and then actually put that in review process for, and even many of those get rejected even after review process. But as Vikas said, if it crosses through the review stage, then it's more likely to go through actually. If it crosses through the disk screening stage, then it's more likely to go through the final acceptance. So these are the reasons why all those editors who contributed in editorial actually said they desk reject submissions. Okay, so first thing, obviously, that just don't submit if you are rejected and not given opportunity to resubmit. Lots of people submit, they are rejected for reasons, and then actually they resubmit again thinking editor has forgotten, or they will reconsider for any other reason. No, they have rejected for reason, and they would probably unlikely to consider it again if they have rejected it, unless they have said that, well, you can resubmit if you do this and that. I mean, that is a good news because they have liked your work, but they also found some major flaw, and they think that must be fixed before it goes further in the review process. So if they have given you opportunity, by all means, try to redo those changes or address those issues and then resubmit. If they don't resubmit, because it will be desk rejected again. Second one, plagiarism and self-plagiarism. And most of the journals nowadays looking at the similarity score. And more than 10%, many journals, obviously, they desk reject. In my case, I obviously desk reject more than 15% similarity. However, if it's higher, up to 30%, I try to look at the report. And if the report suggests that the similarity is only due to some kind of random words appearing in the paper and random sentences, then I try to ignore. But if the similarity is due to the chunk of the text taken from the different journals or from your own work, then it's unlikely go to the review stage, because A-star journal or high impact factor journals also look at originality of the work. If the work is not original, even if it's your work and you are trying to recycle, it's unlikely to make through to desk screening stage. Lack of adherence to journal and author guidelines, as Vikas said, that many times we are very lazy. We don't want to really be submitted somewhere, got desk rejected or got rejected after review, and we want to resubmit again. And that generally doesn't go very well with the editors or associate editors. They look at it and they actually get sense of it, that you have submitted somewhere and you just simply resubmit it again. Simple example, you submitted to Emerald Journal, which is structured abstract formatting, and you resubmitted to Elsevier Journal, which has standard abstract. You didn't make change. It is very clear that it was rejected and you resubmitted, and therefore it's desk reject. Similarly, many journals, actually Springer or many other journals, has numbered citations. Now, if you just resubmit with numbered citations in journals which follows author year formatting, then obviously very unlikely it will obviously be received well by editors or associate editors. Reviewers also criticize these things, so please be considerate to journals and also to your work. Take little time before you submit. Look at the journal. You don't need to format fully. I must say, you don't need to format fully. at the start, but you really need to look after basic requirements. For example, IJIM requires highlights, 4 bullet points. Now, some people either don't put bullet points, or they put the bullet points. Those bullet points are like 3 sentences each. That's not really appropriate. So please be adhere to basic requirements when you submit, and that's likely to help your own work to go through the desk screening. And then, as Vikas said, the scope is one of the major reason. If your work is not fitting to the general scope, then it's unlikely to make through. Even in IGI, a majority of papers desk rejected because of the lack of fit, lack of alignment with the journal's scope. So that's another reason. Inadequate connection. And for scope, I would say, just don't go just word by word on the journal website. Just try to look at last 2 year, 1 year work published in the journal. See how your work actually relate to what is being published, because that's the current focus, And if you don't see anything, it's unlikely that the editor going to really consider. Inadequate connection with the existing work published in the journal. Basically, your submission does not show any familiarity with the journal. It is important. Some people think that, they're trying to enhance their impact factor by encouraging citation. No, a strong journal doesn't need to do that. But why it is important, basically the publication in journals is a kind of scholarly communication. It's a communication that is going through from one article to other article to other article. So what one article said, you added, someone else added something, then someone else added something, and you should be adding something to that thread. So if you just come up, other people are talking about same thing, and you just come up with some random talk about same conversation, then you are unlikely to welcome by those people, those who has published. And those people, why those people are important? Because those people are likely to act as reviewer of your work. And if you really didn't integrate your work with those people's work, it's unlikely to be well received by them. So you're going to put yourself in disadvantageous position. Also, by seeing the recent work from the journal, actually editors identify reviewers. And if you didn't make any effort to identify relevant work and cite, then it make our job very, very difficult. Then we identify reviewers randomly, and that might not go very well for your work. So many reasons are there why actually your work need to show familiarity with the journal work, the work published in journal. But so often people don't make any effort. They just prepare anything and submit anything by hoping that it will go through, it will get published. No, hope doesn't work in the academia. It's so many people now working, so many submissions are coming. The luck, actually, if you produce best of the best work, then luck may have, if it's in your favor, it will get published. But if you create poor work, very little chance that any good journal will put it into the review process. Okay, now after scope and inadequate connection, the actual quality come into play. So although we don't read the full paper fully, but we do look at the paper structure and how different sections are developed. It doesn't take too long to actually assess that. And if either some important sections are missing or sections are there, but actually they are superficially done, then editor wouldn't want to put it forward to reviewers because they know the reviewer will recommend reject, and it will be then waste of the time of editors, reviewers, as well as authors. Author rather just put the paper somewhere else where it may have better chance. So I do generally look at poorly structure and development of the manuscript itself. Length, we generally at IJIM, we are okay to about 10K, yeah, 10,000 words. But we receive sometimes submission which are 18,000, 20,000, pages after pages. I mean, 80 pages, 90 pages. That's monograph. That's not research article. Come on. You are communicating one story, and that should be succinctly communicated. If you are not able to communicate it succinctly, that means you basically haven't thought through your work properly, and that's unlikely to go through. So I am little flexible. I generally consider 10,000, but 2,000 plus minus is okay. You know, that's not going to harm. But some journals, particularly Emeralds, are very, very strict. They have specific criteria and they follow that. So obviously they may desk reject or they may reject even after review if you are not able to reduce the length to the certain word counts. So that's, and then obviously all that leads to theoretical and methodological issues as well. You know, theoretical issues, I am always looking for either strong theory development or strong theory testing. So if it's qualitative paper, I am looking at a strong theory development or building at the back end of the paper. I'm looking at if you are coming up with the strong, theoretical framework, conceptual model, or theoretical, research propositions. So if you are just presenting the quotes and themes and all that and moving on to conclusion, that kind of paper is just simply desk rejected. We are not interested in those. You must present, good theory development at back end to show that you've gone beyond what you have found, and then that would be considered. And if you are actually theory testing, which is quantitative work, then on front end, I would like to see in the section 3 on theoretical background and hypothesis development, that you really present a very strong theoretical underpinning, followed by overview of theoretical model, and then actually good discussion corresponding each hypothesis. Often I have seen people just present the hypothesis, move on. No, that's not really a strong work. Just hypothesis is what relationship you are proposing. I can propose any relationship. If it doesn't have underlying logic, then it is not a appropriate relationship to examine. So you really need to present that section very, very strongly. If you're not doing so, then it's not going to go very well. And same thing, literature review type of papers. People are presenting, submitting lots of literature reviews. Descriptive literature review is no for IJIM. Bibliometric analysis, we don't entertain. We don't want any bibliometric analysis. We also not looking at topic modeling any longer. Simply anything that is not advancing theory, we are not interested in. Just presenting the trends is insufficient to make educate contribution. So we are not looking at those things. Now, the other reason that you may get actually lots of times why you are rejected is inadequate research contribution. And the lack of research contribution can be due to any of these reasons. It's not one thing. Contribution, how would you define? Everyone defines contribution in a different way, because there is no one such thing, one liner that can actually define contribution. So it's like elephant. You say, how you describe elephant? You have to give the characteristics of elephant. So same thing here. You talk about the rigor, you talk about the fit, you talk about the novelty, you talk about the originality, you talk about timeliness, relevance. All these are ingredients that leads to a contribution. So if any of those things are weak or missing, you don't have sufficient contribution. And sometimes you are frustrated as an author. I'm frustrated as an author. Why my paper is rejected? But one of these things are not there. you may not have think of, but other people are seeing it. So these are some of the reasons for desk rejections that actually we have observed across 7-8 different journals from different areas. So it is not just for us, for IJIM, but promise that these are the issues that most of the journal editors are considering when they are making decisions at desk screening stage. With that, actually, I will now end my talk. I'm more than happy to take any questions that audience has, or I will be happy to stay till end and take the questions together. So thank you. Let me just unshare my stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you so much. In fact, again, as you said, the inertia on the part of the author in while submitting to the journals in terms of the guidelines of the journal and so on. And I think that inertia, that lazy attitude probably costs a lot. And I'm sure we all have taken a lot from the way you've described in few words. Succinct communication is what is the key. So thank you so much. We do have a question for you, Professor Yogesh. So it's there in the chat box. We sometimes submit our papers as working papers or discussion papers, not published. Do we need to be careful while submitting a paper as a discussion paper? Could it lead to a desk reject because the paper is unpublished but available online? So basically, she's asking about working papers.
Yeah. I mean, you see, the different areas operate in different way. So if you go in economics and finance, they have a really well-established working paper series and practice. So they do publish working papers, and those working papers get defined by presenting at different places and improving based on feedback, and then you publish. So that area does not actually, probably they handle that in that way because everyone is aware of. Now, in our area, in many business areas, even in marketing, even in information systems, probably international business and all, then this is not a common practice. And therefore, what happens when people publish either in preprint or working paper or in other form, this creates problems. There are several problems because most of us is blind review journals. Now, what happens when you have published working paper, the name of authors are also disclosed. So that basically then poses problem that compromises the whole blind review process. So we don't actually entertain those papers. We do reject those papers. So obviously, based on area, you take careful approach. If you are in economics and finance, probably you are okay by publishing working paper and then submitting afterwards. But if you are in other areas, be very careful. I must say that, because that is counted. Again, I also want sometimes people actually upload their PhD thesis on some public domain or somewhere, and then actually craft paper from that thesis and submit. Again, very high level of similarity comes and paper get rejected. So please be careful in those things. Also, you publish papers in conferences, and and you try to extend that paper, but still 50-60% similarity. That's too high for very strong journal. Strong journal would not entertain that level of similarity, regardless it's your work or someone else's work that you have done. So these are the things that to take care. One thing I must say, I want to repeat, because that desk rejection from India is very high in IJIM as well. And the regions is these that I mentioned. Sometimes cosmetics regions, sometimes just the careful attention to what that journal is about. And even if you have published, in other journals of similar type, try to look at that journal as well to see if what type of papers they are publishing, what kind of argumentation they need, what kind of structuring they need. This this is very, very important. You work very hard to prepare a manuscript you work probably a year or 2 years to prepare a manuscript. And then for 2 days or 3 days or 10 days, you rush yourself and then you get rejected. So my suggestion is simple, that, if you want to avoid desk rejection, then create a manuscript of similar quality what is already published in last 2 years. Then you're likely to make through the first stage. And then it's your luck, obviously, how the reviewers thinks and what the reviewers thinks about your work. So now there is some other comment. I have observed and experienced this too. Despite theoretical review, I have found leading at research writing that the model is an extension with a new theory. A construct that increases a variance isn't a contribution, despite extensive theoretical review. Yeah, I mean, it's all about contribution. It depends upon the label of journal as well. So the same contribution might be okay to some journals, but might not be okay to other journals. Maybe you could just add a construct in a particular theory based on review, might be okay for just some journals, but may not be okay for most of the A-star journals, I must say. And also, often what happens on review articles, particularly, what authors try to do, they create a review, and in that review, they try to bring all sorts of factors, like maybe 100 factors they put together, in one. It's meaningless, 100 factors. What sense one can make? I know that all these factors probably been used to examine certain areas. But if I, as an author, want to do something in the future, what it may tell me, there is a paper by Witten, what constitutes theoretical contribution. It's an editorial in Academy of Management Review. And if you read, it's a very beautiful editorial, actually. And one quote I always read, that was given in that paper is, all buildings are built using bricks, but not all piles of bricks are buildings. Yeah. And the same thing, not all collection of factors is theory. So if you're just clubbing the factors and putting them together, is not going to probably be seen very productive or very meaningful by editors, associate editors, and reviewers. So these things obviously keep in mind. Other thing I would like to say, authors, lots of young authors nowadays, they want to write before they read. That's not going to help. You really need to know your area well. You need to read and read and read before you start writing. You need to know the domain. And I'm confident if you know the domain, then you're less likely to make the mistakes, silly mistakes that I outlined earlier. If you have read lots of your work related to your topic, or majority of key articles related to your area, I'm sure your argumentation, your thoughts will be well informed by them, and your writing quality will be much better after you have read those work. So these are the things I would say are important. Any other question? I would be happy to answer.
Okay, so keeping in mind the time frame, we will also have more questions once all the editors have spoken. Thank you so much. In fact, in one line, if you could say, hope works when you have the best quality of work. Absolutely. In the absence of best quality work, I think just hope doesn't work. Wow. So thank you so much. I now request Professor Manlio, Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Knowledge Management, to share his views.
Thank you very much, Deepa. Thank you very much. And it's very difficult to make my presentation now after my legendary colleagues that introduced their amazing journals, and also Thank you very much for connecting me with the Yogesh and Flavian. I've been also very grateful to Vikas because to Carlos, sorry, because Vikas did introduce me to you, and I'm very honored to be part of this conference. Indian Institute of Management at Cosico is really very renewed. By the way, I did dream since my boyhood to go to India. I'm still planning this. It would be really very much a pleasure to reach you out and visit your amazing country in a really next future, because I think India is something really fascinating for me. The Indian culture is really fascinating for me. So I'm really in the best place to really to perform my speech today. So I would like really to thank again for your great courtesy. I will share some slides. By the way, I did take a lot of very important inputs from my colleagues. Really, I'm grateful to. Can you see the screen now? I think you should see it now. Can you see?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I did take a lot of inputs from both Vikas and Yogesh, because they did speak about extensively about the rejection rate, and also I did find several important contributions about the desk projection that Yogesh was telling us about. Really, I think that lack of fit is one of the greatest problem that we have, because sometimes we do receive 100 submissions which are unfortunately poorly fitting with the journal, with the Emerson scope and the journal. So I think this is sometimes very difficult to be managed, because those kind of events, I think, are very much useful for early scholars, but also for senior colleagues, because they do give the right pathway in order to address people to the right submissions, because a wrong submission to the wrong journal is just to use time of the scholar himself or herself which is submitting, but also of the editorial team. So research should be on the right pathway always. So I did catch a lot of very interesting comments from my colleagues, and I'm still very grateful to them for introducing this hot topic of the submissions this day. So I will introduce briefly. I will try to stay as much as I can in the time that you did give to us, introducing the Journal of Knowledge Management. I've been appointed editor-in-chief on 2017, just at the end of 2017. It's about 4 years. And we, as a team, did experience a very great work, an inclusive work, because at the very beginnings, when we did take the Journal of Knowledge Management, the knowledge management community was still, I should say, a narrow community focused on knowledge management studies, but still not including a lot of interesting knowledge streams and also management streams, which instead had been very important to be treated from the journal. As the editorial objective is to dedicate the debate to the exchange of the latest academic research and practice information about knowledge management and in organization. I did think since the beginnings that probably it would have been good to include the vision of different scholars from different disciplines, like management information system, entrepreneurship, international business, and several other disciplines connected to management, in order to read under their lens the focus of knowledge management. So to create a good mix of research streams under the knowledge management lens. And I still think that it has been a good experience. You can see from the main indicators, I will be certainly overlapping with the topics that both Vikas and Yogesh were talking about, because of course we are editors, so we should present the numbers, the facts and figures of the journal. We will see that actually we did jump from 2018, so just first real here that I've been working as editor-in-chief, of 90% in the site score, and of another 21% respect to the previous year on 2020. So we are still in a very strong growing up, because fortunately we are supported by several scholars which are enlarging their interest to knowledge management studies. And as coverage and key benefits, these slides presenting you what you will be finding also on the website of the JKM is showing you that I did try as much as I could to enlarge what the Journal of Knowledge Management is actually covering. You will be finding, for instance, the culture and communication strategy, but also learning organization as topics, information organization and retrieval technologies for improving the quality of knowledge, but also knowledge hiding, retaining knowledge, knowledge management, innovation, and also knowledge and performances inside firms. So we think that the best option was to improve the topics of the Journal of Knowledge Management in order to have a wider scientific debate over our colleagues in the management and information science and library science field. This was one of the main changes. I'm going to present to you the main changes that I did try to implement in the Journal of Knowledge Management. This was the organization flow up to 2017 when I had been appointed editor-in-chief. As you will see, it was very simple. It was just me as the editor-in-chief, my editorial assistant, and just 5 regional editors, which were covering just part of the continents, by the way, of the world. Just Asia, United Europe, North America, South America, and Oceania. And the regional editors were managing the editorial board and the readers board, as it is always. The actual organization flow is quite more complex, as you will see, because during the last 4 years, JKM has become just like a multinational firm, just taking, borrowing and lending the term that Vikas did use before, with the editor-in-chief, which is coordinating a wider group of senior scholars, particularly in the green boxes. You will be finding what I did suggest to change during the last, and I obtained to change from the publisher during the last years. Particularly as innovations, you will be finding that I did introduce one managing editor, which is Professor Papa, my strict collaborators, which is qualified as full professor, and one social media editor, which is had been one of the greatest innovations for in the journals of my stream. And I did ask to have 2 colleagues. Also, the social media editor is not academic; it's not an outside academic staff, but it's a colleague. It's a professor, Professor Domitilla Magni from Rome Tree University. So I did ask to have 2 professors under those roles, because I did want really to delivery on the social media, but also to have all the incoming papers screened by people that are really in the academia, and they are really treating those kind of topics which are so basic and vital for the Journal of Knowledge Management. I did also add one section adapted to senior consulting editors, which is actually populated by all senior scholars. It's very important that I've been very much inclusive, because as I did tell you before, I did try to have people representing different streams of research. So I have so many legendary scholars and top senior scholars coming from different disciplines, but still interested in giving an advisory contribution, which is very much important for the editor-in-chief, with regards to the future line of research and how to include knowledge management studies under other different disciplines and streams of research. I I did also try to change the orientation of the journal with regards to the Real Impact Manifesto, which was introduced by Emerald Publisher about a couple of years ago. As you know, and did also take very important inputs from both Vikas and Yogesh when they were speaking about the impact. Emerald did promote a couple of years ago the Real Impact Manifesto. The impact factor, scientific impact factor, is important. As you know, we are all running for the impact factor, but it's also important to have a real impact, which is the real impact of the journal and of research published by the journal on the daily life of entrepreneurs, managers, practitioners, people having important positions under the boards of firms, and in the real life of people living the topics that we are studying. So I did introduce a complete set of area coordinating real impact editors, which are representing all the continents. I did also include a One Africa coordinator editor, but also giving a voice to different kind of communities. For instance, the regional editors from Oceania are now represented by one coming from Australia and the other one coming from New Zealand. I did try to enlarge the voices from the scientific community. Also, I did try to do the same from Asia, having people coming from Taiwan, for instance, Hong Kong, mainland China, and I'm planning, of course, to enlarge these to India and other so relevant countries for our journal. We are receiving several very quality submission from Asia, so it's very important for us to get connected to your amazing country and to your amazing scholars. I did also try to have not just regional editors, but managing regional real impact editor, which are not just a tag for them. It's not just a way to call them differently, but is instead a way to understand the process of submission and giving advices to the local communities in a different way. So to giving address to real impact research and studies. So not only to studies which are merely scientific, but also they could take under consideration the real impact of the research in themselves. I did try also to improve with my team the overall journal reliability and visibility. Those events, just the one that I'm living today, are really the best occasions and important occasion to network with other colleagues like we are doing today, but also to introduce the journal to other communities. So to improve the journal presentation, you should communicate it, and those events are really vital for us. With regards to the submissions, when I had been appointed editor-in-chief, the submission were still quite low. There were about 550 submissions. Now for 2021, we are reaching a level of about 1,500 submissions. We just triplicate the submission, and this is of course, again, not the result of a one-man show, but is the result of a greater team, which is helping myself and is supporting me at the international level on multiple plans. Those are the another new for the journal, which is the joint special issue. I did try with the time to replace the traditional special issues with a joint special issue. So having at least a couple of journals which are collaborating, having the same call for paper on the same hot topic for both of them in a way that they can be complementary. So people are solicited to submit their research either to one journal or to another, just respecting, of course, the aims and scope of the journal. This is a way in order to, we did try, of course, to have the people more concentrated on the fit of the journal and on the core aims and scope of the journal themselves. We did experience this with the Journal of International Management, with there was Mike Kotabe as editor, but I do hope that we can have a new special issue also joint special issue with VCAS very soon, with R&D management, which is still open. And forthcoming are also a couple of joint special issue with the International Entrepreneurship and Management Journal and with the Journal of Technology Transfer. Needless to say that I will be very happy to set up the same format also with Yogesh and Carlos with their amazing journals. I'm a big fan of my colleagues' journals, so I'll be very much happy to propose to them this kind of joint project in a very in a very next future. Just very quickly, I will show you some facts and figures about the citations and international collaboration. You will see that from 2017 up to today, we did really have a big boost of citations. Again, this is, needless to say, the result of the very huge promotion that we did do with the journal to making people to understand the topics, to understand the visibility of the journal into different kind of disciplines and scientific communities. You will see also that the international collaboration were about 25%. I mean, the international collaboration is the Simago Scopus index, which is indexing the papers which are co-authored by people from at last 2 or more countries. So we did shift from the 25% to about 50% of international collaboration as reflecting the international impact of the journal. And in the box that we'll see at the bottom right, on the right hand, you will see that even if we did rise with the impact factor and with the citation so much, still the self-sites are really little compared to the total sites. This is very important because needless to say that the journal should be promoted having citation from other journals and scholars coming from other journals, of course, and writing for other journals. Still, we could not, of course, erase self-citation because the Journal of Knowledge Management is the main journal into the knowledge management field. So many authors are, of course, citing in their research papers which have been published by the Journal of Knowledge Management. So this is a normal process, but it's nice to see how the total sites were really taking a different direction from the self sites starting from 2017. And this is just very quickly the evolution of the JKM rank by journal impact factor. As you will see for the social science citation index, we are at the 23 position out of 226 journals. When I became editor-in-chief in 2017, we were 74. And we were in the Q2, but we did experience really a great jump during the last years. And Yogesh was citing the information science and library science. And needless to say that his amazing journal is the first in the world, largely. And I'm really a great big fan of his journal, I should confess. And we are at the 3rd position in this index for the social science citation index. We did move from the 19th position in 2017 when I became editor-in-chief to the 3rd position on 2020. It's very tough information science and library science because there are very, very great journal with a very high impact factor. So it's a really truly an honor to be on the 3rd position behind legendary journals like George's one. And with regards to the journal citation indicator, the GCIA, we are at 9th position for the management field. In Q1, of course, we did jump from 58th position on 2017 to the 9th position. And information science and library science, we did jump from the 22 position up to the 6th position, which is also a very important result last year. We do hope, of course, to improve as much as we can those indicators as well. Just going very quickly to the conclusion that this is about real impact articles. As you will see, we are promoting the Real Impact Manifesto from Emerald, and we did have not only dedicated editors to this kind of mission, but we did also implement as a novelty Real Impact articles, which are adding to the traditional articles. Those are shorter and faster articles, which are intended and expected to be co-authored by both scholars and practitioners, or entrepreneurs, managers, scholars with relevant engagement in the real world, because we really would like to have something which might be knowledge, also real practical knowledge, also for entrepreneurs and managers. We have two kind of formats. I did promote the Real Impact Research articles and the Real Impact Viewpoint articles, and we are trying to give full priority for those articles with acceptance in maximum a couple of months. We try, to be honest, we are really able to do, and to give publication priority, but still, of course, managing and publishing them like traditional articles, respecting all the COP guidelines. By the way, I've been involved also in the right department of the Emerald since 2017, just to fight against all the malpractices of publication that Yosh was citing in his previous slide. And this is the page that, of course, just to be next of as a bridge to what I was saying, and just echoing the slide of Yogesh, the JKM ethic code, of course, we are always trying to publish in the most cutting-edge articles, never asking authors to pay submission fee or article processing charge, or using data without consent, or publishing works in exchange for registered money. We really try to fight against every kind of malpractice. So we're looking forward for the best submission coming from IIM Cozy Code conference. Deepa, have been truly very happy to get connected. I do hope that also people will be connected with me on LinkedIn or also by email. I will be truly happy to share my thoughts and all my availability as an editor, and really again big thank for this amazing presentation that I had the possibility to listen from my colleagues, and to join this excellent conference in I can say one of my most favorite countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Manlio. In fact, we would love to host you whenever you plan to come to India. So do let us know. Yogesh has already been invited. Professor Carlos, you're also welcome. So it would be an honor to host you here. And Professor Manlio, it was really great, the insights on real impact articles. I think that's the need of the hour, because an article just does not need to have managerial implications. It has to also have the practical implications, wherein you're talking of how it really creates an impact. So I think that's truly, it's, even though you are all chief editors of top journals, I think although you were talking about similar things, but each one of you had one own flavor. So I think real impact articles, and the other idea you shared was about special issues in collaboration with other journals. So that's very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So may I now invite Professor Carlos, and maybe we can have a couple of questions after he has presented. Yes, Professor Carlos.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I just would like to say that I'm absolutely delighted participating in this conference. So I would like to say thank you very much to the organization and Professor Yogesh Dwivedi for being in touch and allowing me to participate in this. So as it has been said before, I really don't know what to say after so many fantastic editors, their knowledge and their comments. So, but I'm trying to focus my attention mainly on what I have to add is talking about the Spanish journal marketing, and suggest give some details of how do we trade revisions in the journal. So first of all, I just would like that the name of the journal is Spanish. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm not sharing. So I hope you can see now the screen. Okay. So I just would like to say, first of all, that the journal, it's an international journal. So it has been published since 1996 in Spanish, but from 2016, we are publishing in English. Especially important is to highlight that the Spanish only reflect the origin of the journal. So it is not a journal limited to Spanish authors. So this is a journal with a clear international projection. So the journal welcomes papers from any author, any part of the world. And in fact, we can say that we have published papers from many different countries, including India. In particular, India, it's a very, very important aim for us because we have appreciating that during the last years, the number of papers in very, very relevant journals are coming from India. So I have a very, very special interest in taking part in this conference. So thank you very much for this invitation. What is the journal focus? The journal focus is any topic related with the concept of marketing. So we can go ahead with topics related with the consumer experience, topics related with tourism, marketing, branding, product, retailing, omnichannel, retailing, showrooming, web rooming, anything related with advertising, or a hot topic, which is influencers, cross-cultural marketing, social responsibility, sustainability, everything related with marketing, social media, and new tools such as augmented reality, virtual reality, these kind of things, artificial intelligence, are clearly related with the scopus of the journal. So in fact, we have 3 special issues being conducted nowadays. One of them is focused in mixed reality and artificial intelligence. So this special issue is being coordinated by Sandra Loureiro from Portugal, Faisal Alid from the States, and Arnold Japrutra from Australia. We also have a special issue on consumer engagement, which is being coordinated by Raouf Derader from India, from Kashmir, other authors from South Africa and USA. Also, we have another special issue in literature review. The deadlines for those special issues are March 2022 and May 2022 for the last one. So please, if you have anything related with these topics, please consider to submit it to the Spanish Journal of Marketing. So I just would like to highlight that the managing the revision process, it's a very important point, and I just would like to give a very, very simple suggestions or comments to the authors. So please, when you submit your paper, try to focus your attention in the journal that you are focusing in or submitting to. So definitely the format details are important, not initially, but at the end of the process are growingly important. So please take in account these questions. So you have to read the journal. You have to adopt the journal focus, the journal approach, the journal even format. It should be related with the topics being discussed, being addressed in the journals, because we need to develop a storyline of the papers or the topics being discussed in the journal. So this is an important suggestion that I would like to make you. In addition to this, any author has to put in the shoes of the reader. So if the editor, if the reviewers, or if the readers do not understand the paper, so it is not the fault of the editor, of the reviewer, of the reader. So the paper should be absolutely clear. You have to transmit your message very, very, very clear in order that anybody can understand with the minimal effort. So in fact, the journals are competing for having the attention of the readers. So you have to be very, very clear in your in addressing all these things. It is your responsibility as an author. If a reader do not understand what you are saying and do not understand in the first glimpse of look at the paper. So this is particularly important. It is definitely your duty to make sure that the readers is not get lost. So you have to remind to the reader what is the point of the paper, what it has been done before, what is going to be done later on. So in order to make and transmit a clear point to the reader, in order to catch their attention, because the reader has a lot of papers to read. You have to ask yourself to read your paper and transmit clearly the message that you are transmitting to the reader. So the Spanish Journal of Marketing is indexed in many, many indexes. So the index world is a real world. We are including the journal in different indexes, regional indexes, in order to improve our position. So as I said before, we are a relatively new journal. We are nowadays in position 36. We're really in position 36. Nowadays in second quartile of Scopus. In 2018, we were an impact factor, a site score of 235, 3.4, 5.7, 6.5. It is expected to 2021, perhaps a bit higher. So definitely the citation of the journals, as we are a new kid on the block, as we are a new journal, so we are increasing the citations being received. So initially we were in position 80, 64, and we are now in position 36. So we expecting to improve or to maintain this position for the next year. So let's see. So an important point that I would like to highlight is that this journal is an open access journal. That means that our articles will be immediately and permanently free to read and download for any authors. So this will multiply the access of the journal papers very, very significantly, because nobody has to pay. So if you are interested, you directly download, and in many universities do not have access to many very, very well-reputed journals that are that you have to pay for having this information. So in addition to this, the open access allows to the authors to increase and give a free diffusion to their papers with social networks such as ResearchGate, Academia, LinkedIn, or even personal websites. In addition to this, it is important to highlight that the authors do not have to pay anything, any publication fee. In fact, the associations, the research associations which are supporting the journal are paying the publication cost. But in some journals, it could be perfectly higher than 3,000 euros. So please, if you are a young author, try to be careful with predatory journals. So of course we are not a predatory journals. We are very serious and established journal, and the authors do not have to pay for publishing on it. If you are a victim of a predatory journal, at the end of the process, you will know that you have to pay for having this open access. But in the Spanish Journal of Marketing, you do not have to pay anything for publishing in this journal. In addition to this, we are publishing around 20 papers, or between 18 and 21 papers. We offer every year a Best Paper Award. To do that, we focus the attention in the impact in the literature, and also we ask for a very well-reputed researcher to select the Best Paper Award of the year. Brian Raxford, the former editor of the Journal of Interactive Marketing, was the responsible of selecting the Best Paper Award in 2018. Also, we are giving free Best Reviewers Award. For us, the review process is particularly important, and we are paying a lot of attention on it. We are trying to give any kind of compensation to the reviewers being involved in the process. As a result of this, the objectives of this Best Reviewer Award is to recognize the reviewers' work, to motivate, to try that they send to the authors positive feedback, constructive feedback, in order to improve the final result. So we do not expect destructive or generalist or non-specific or non-educational reviewers. What we are expecting, contrary to this, is to be specific. What is the specific problem how can we solve this problem? How can we motivate the authors in order to improve the final result of your paper? So it's not just enough to indicate what is wrong. So please try to suggest how they can solve the problem. So this is particularly important for us. Professor Levin Altina, the editor-in-chief of the Service Industries Journal, was responsible of giving this Best Reviewer Award in the last occasion. The best reviewers came all around the world, from Italy, from Spain, from different countries in the world. So I just would like to insist in this process, in this part of the presentation, because it's very, very important for us. So in the Spanish Journal of Marketing, we are trying to help young researchers to improve the final result, because we understand that the aim of our review is to improve the manuscript interest for the future readers. So consequently, we are encouraging reviewers to conduct constructive reviews. It is not enough to highlight the manuscript limitations. We are expecting that they are improving it. Definitely, we promote the joint collaboration between reviewers and authors. So the philosophy that we are trying to perceive is that authors, reviewers, and editors who work together in order to further improve the quality of manuscripts. Definitely, we are giving special advice to novel authors which are trying to submit initial version of their work. Okay, so in addition to this, I would like to highlight that we're improving, we're updating the editorial review board. If you are interested in taking part in this review process, in this constructive review process, I will be absolutely delighted to having contacts. So please send me an email if you would like to be part of this editorial review board of people interested in reviewers' papers from the Spanish Journal of Marketing. So just would like to summarize the topics or the reasons why you should submit a paper to the Spanish Journal of Marketing SIG. So first of all, I just would like to highlight the international vocation of the journal. It's an inclusive journal being published by Emerald. It's an open access journal which gives free access to authors and readers, which is particularly important nowadays. And it is an increasing impact, definitely never close to the Journal of Professor Digwetti, which is the #1 in our list. We are the 36th of 185, but the impact is increasing. In addition to this, we are giving a best paper award of 1,500 euros to the best paper. We are giving a best reviewer award to the reviewers in order to improve the constructive review process. So this is mainly that I would like to say about the Spanish Journal of Marketing. I have prepared something in relation to how to prepare the paper and so on, but I don't know if it's worth, because we are passing 10 minutes from 10. So if it is okay, I will finish my presentation. I hope to receive an important number of submissions from this conference. And in fact, the India authors, it's a very important aim for us in order to improve the international diffusion of the journal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There is a question for you, Professor Carlos. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a question for you.
Yes.
I think someone has requested to share the information again related to special issues.
Oh, yes, it would be my pleasure, definitely. So, yes, I'm gonna see if I can present. So I'm gonna move. So we are having nowadays we are having 3 special issues. Yes. So one of them is related to the topics related to technologies 4.0. applied to the context of marketing. So mixed reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all these kind of things are very welcome in this special issue. A second special issue is focusing in consumer engagement, how we can achieve the engagement of the consumers, what is the role of technology in this process, how everything has been changing with the COVID during this process, how can engage consumer in this context or in the previous context. Also, we have a special issue in literature review, but literature review building knowledge. So we are not just interested in systematic literature review, where people apply different kind of methodologies in order to summarize what it has been published. What we are expecting is that you provide additional value, or you can structure the literature in a specific topic in a particular way. Fantastic if you suggest any agenda for future research.
Thank you so much. So Professor Carlos, it was really insightful, because not only did you share about how the authors should be looking at developing the article, but also from the reviewer, like what do you expect from a reviewer, and also the special advice given to novel authors. So that was quite insightful. Thank you so much. If you may stop sharing the screen,
Yes.
we'll take one question by my colleague.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, so one of my colleagues, so we'll just take this question and close. I'm sorry, we've already exceeded a lot of time. So one of my colleagues, Professor Payal, wants to know that when we review papers, we cannot expect the same quality from A, B, and C. So how is it that, where do we differentiate? And if you could throw light on that, any of you, please, because
I'm happy to begin with. I think C has raised a very pertinent question here, and obviously sometimes some reviewers just take everything at same standard, which can be problematic, because one side, a journal receiving a very high number of submissions and therefore expect very high level of rigor and contribution. Another side, that there is journal that not receiving those many submissions, and they are okay with the with the slightly or largely lower expectation. So reviewers actually has to align their style, because if they're submitting, they had basically, reviewers should think they are author when they are doing. And when they're reviewing, they think that if it was my paper and if I receive this level of comment, would I be? The other side of things is that you really, regardless which journal it is, you really need to look at the basic things, basic requirements for any scholarly article. So look at what are the main issues. Are they actually, article is actually meeting the like basic rigor. So if method is okay, if theory is okay, if they're not making false statement or false argumentation, if the citation is appropriately done, if the article has all essential elements, those are the things for any journal. That's not for only top level journal. But then rightly mentioned in this comment, in this question, that some journal that are very high level, they have some specific requirement. For example, top journals, it's not just sufficient to have cross-sectional study. They just don't want to publish a cross-sectional study. They want to see that the author's gone beyond normal expectation. They have done either longitudinal study or mixed method study or multi-method study, whatever it is. It is something different from the one that is A, B, or C. And therefore, reviewer need to look at those issues as well. But at the same time, I guess if you're not sure where to actually pitch, we cannot say where to draw boundary because different journal has different expectation. But what I would say that you are the one of the reviewer. You are not, the decision would not rely just on your review. Editor would take in account 2 or 3 reviewer or other reviewers comments before they decide what to do. So if you might given comments that is slightly higher or lower than other reviewer, then you would actually see it once the decision has been made. And when actually authors come back and provide the response, then read the response as well as comments from other reviewers to see that where you stand actually. And if your expectations were too high or perhaps a bit too low for that journal. You know, although we always relate quality with the journal that are ranked high, but not necessarily all good journals are ranked high. I would say the rankings are political. It takes many other things in account than just the quality aspect. So I wouldn't say you dilute your review comments just because the journal is ranked in certain ranking at lower level. A journal that is ranked in one ranking 2-star might be ranked A-star in another ranking, right? And with very high or low impact factor. So some journals are ranked very high, but their impact factor is not very high. You can see many examples of that, yeah? So your review should be your review, your reflection on the work. And as I think Carlos and as well as Manlio mentioned, I think that it's not just sufficient to tell what are the problems in the manuscript, but as long as you are telling how to resolve those problems, doesn't matter what problems you have raised would be fine. I think authors always appreciate such reviews. When actually reviewer tells what is the problem and then tells how authors can address those problems. It is always very, very constructive. In fact, when we tell people how to do the review and how construct their review comments, we always tell, look, present your summary of the paper and its strength. Begin with the strength of the paper, then go and highlight the main weaknesses of the paper. And also, when highlighting the main weaknesses of paper, tell how to address those weaknesses in the revised version. And one thing to keep in mind, don't become reviewer who tells a set of questions now, which is now satisfied by author in the first revision cycle, and then you come up with completely new set of questions in the second round. That's perhaps not very fair with the authors. And also put editors in dilemma. So those are the things. I don't have from my side a clear answer that where to draw the line. But what I would say is actually more you review, more experience you will have in terms of where to draw the line actually by yourself, and which journal has what kind of expectation you would get to learn about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very insightful. In fact, I think this has been the most enriching session of all these days. And Professor Manlio, would you like to share something before we wind up?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just echoing Yorgesh and thanking so much Professor Payal, which is also a reviewer for Journal of Knowledge Management. I'm very much happy that that those contributions allow us to give also more inputs. I'm absolutely agree with Jojas that well, it does not strictly depend from conceptual or empirical methodologies. Still very important. But for instance, we have two different sections in the JKM. The one dedicated to the real impact articles, for instance, is welcoming viewpoint articles and which are intended and expected to be quite more conceptual or using probably sources which can give a broader imaging of the topic under description with regards and respect to the research papers, for instance, which should be much more grounded. So it's just what we are expecting to have. If I'm expecting to have an empirical research paper, of course, methodologies is very important because a conceptual paper, unless it is not the revelation of reality, something very, very important, like a position paper from top scholars, for instance, from legendary scholars, which are putting the right topics for just positioning some new topic, for instance. Well, needless to say that it would be very much welcome, but of course, it should be also granted from the experience of the people that are submitting, because it's very difficult to have conceptual papers which are always very much grounded and with the very good roots into the literature review, but also in the observation of the reality. Whilst if you are aiming at producing a good viewpoint article, of course, you can enlarge topics. You can also involve, for instance, people which are not intended to be just like scholars or scientific involved people, but also practitioners and managers. And under this vein, probably it would be very important to have top managers or top entrepreneurs leading the article together with scholars in a way to have really a conceptual paper or a viewpoint paper which is grounding into large corporation. For instance, you imagine a paper, for instance, authored by Jojas and Bill Gates. It would be dramatically important for my journal, just to say, because really to have a mix of also experiences well-grounded may be useful. With these, and I'm just finishing, of course, I'm not encouraging, of course, only research papers, but also viewpoint papers, which anyway should be really much thought, really much reflecting, and having a very good composition. Just one last word, I'm very much agree with Carlos with regards to the fight that we should do against predatory journals. This is a very important issue. I'm thanking so much, Carlos, to have recalled this, because we are really exposed to several journals. Also, I received invitation to join journals which I don't know are sounding, are journal knowledge management sounding, or also important journal sounding, just like the Italian sounding. We are really in a difficult moment of research, so I will be very much happy to collaborate also with my colleagues and invite them to join also my journal, because we are on the same page. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Professor Yogesh, you would like to share something?
Yeah, the question about conceptual and empirical papers. So I would suggest that you should try to target top-level journals with empirical papers. Conceptual work has very little chance to go through. You know, as Manlio just mentioned, that the conceptual article generally be in white from those who we think that can give authoritative content, those who can guide the community, those who can actually say something meaningful. At junior level, maybe the conceptual paper may not be the one that you want to pursue. And even if you want to, then target the journal to that level. I don't think those kind of articles will go through to top level journals. So be realistic. I think prepare good empirical articles for strong journals, and always try to read conceptual article that is published in good journals to understand, you know, what purpose they've been published, what purpose they serve, what they're trying to communicate and how they're trying to communicate. And then you will understand that if your conceptual article will really make sense or not. So for example, I recently invited one of the Professor John Edwards from Aston University, who's a leading authority in knowledge management, as well as he also works in information management area. So I invited him to write a conceptual article to actually give direction of what kind of work can be published on information management and knowledge management interface, basically. So lots of papers we receive, which is knowledge management, pure knowledge management, which we don't want to publish. So he actually written, just now published, a short viewpoint conceptual article that actually identifies 8 areas where actually these kind of work can be developed and published. So in a sense, basically focus on empirical paper for strong journals. If you get invited by someone, by all means, write conceptual paper. No one is stopping it. Thank you.
Professor Carlos, you have a concluding remark?
Yes, I just would like to reaffirm the comments of Professor Digweedi. So definitely, I believe the most easy to publish is empirical papers with a strong theoretical basis. But if you are interested in publishing conceptual papers, it is better if you are a very, very well-recognized researcher, because frequently, is not so infrequent. Frequently, I have seen young people who came to the academia and tried to publish the first paper or the second or the third and a conceptual paper. So my suggestion is to try to start from below, trying to imitate what the others do. And when you have experience enough and you have an idea, so please to try to develop your conceptual paper, but it doesn't give a very good impression to receive a conceptual paper from someone else who has not published more than 5 papers or something like that. In addition to this, with the literature review, it's the same. So there is a number of tools that has been developed recently in order to systematically analyze the number of papers published from these authors, from this country, and these kind of things. What is interesting in a systematic literature review paper, I think, is the contribution. So until what extent authors are allowing us to understand better a problem, okay? It's not just the output of the tool. So the output of the tool is not interesting, it's just the starting process. The interest is how to organize all this information and to give a new picture. Okay, so thank you very much. I think all the contribution of my colleague, Professor Digweedi, Professor De Giddens, has been really extraordinary, and I have a very easy task to do. It's nothing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So in order to have a few pointers from today's session, I would like to sum it up as almost all of you agreed that there has to be a storyline, and it has to have an opening like a story and a close. So where you begin a narrative with a problem statement and come up with some kind of probable, if not solutions, at least your views on possible solutions. And then you need to read before you write, which is very important, to understand your area before you really start writing. And the best thing I liked was empathizing with the editor. So I think that's very interesting, where you put yourself in the seat of the editor and see, okay, if this paper comes to me, how would I react? How would I respond? So it has been a wonderful session, and I really thank you for taking out your time from the busy schedule and spending time with us. And I'm sure the researchers have benefited, all of us have benefited, and I will be in touch. And it has been very nice having association with all of you. Thank you so much. Once again, I invite you all to IIM Kozhikode campus. Please do visit. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Good morning.
Good morning for you.
Good morning.
Yeah.